Everybody, happy Tuesday. So today's discussion is going to be on a phrase that I used and I still use very frequently, and that is intentions equal results, right? Intentions can be things that you're aware of, but also things that are in your subconscious. And I think, given yesterday's discussion on how do you change your mentality, you really need to understand, you know, how things from your subconscious can be driving the actual show, like behavioral software. We're all products of our environments. You, yours, me, mine. And one's not better than the other. It just is what it is. Whatever we're exposed to, probably from our nuclear families and everything else, it gets imprinted on our minds, whether we like it or not. And it's very subtle. And so, how you learn about money that way too. Like, how do the people around you act and behave around money? Did they spend money that they didn't have and use credit cards and figure that they're going to pay it off in the future? Did they live, week to week, month to month? Again, I'm not here to judge anybody, but if that's the environment that you grew up in, that was learned behavior for you. Those people taught you about money. And so again, you have to really study yourself and look at your own behavior to try to uncover the clues as to what makes you really tick. You know what you're conscious of, but your subconscious can be a very, very powerful force. And if you don't go to the heart of the issue of what's actually driving you, nothing is going to change. And you're going to find yourself asking those rhetorical, open-ended, questions like, why does this always happen to me? Well, you know why it happens to you, because you were taught to behave that way. It's a pretty simple process. Why do they repeat? Well, there's something that's deep-seated in you, like it was in me, to understand the world a certain way, and to have certain style responses to stimuli. So, again, you have to create pattern interrupts or something like that where you're aware of your behavior and you know what your go-to response is, either verbally or physically. You might consider biting your tongue or sitting on your hands to reprogram yourself. This comes up a lot in and around when people who aren't used to financial abundance find themselves in winning trades but want to offset the winning trade too soon. They don't give themselves enough time in the winner to really make a difference. Maybe it's because they're unfamiliar with being in a winning trade, or the frequency that they're in winning trades is too small, right? And so they cauterize the win just to be able to lock it in and say, hey, here's evidence I have a win. Nothing wrong with that. I know what that feels like. But again, how does that conjugate with what your overall goal is? Because if your goal is to make as much money as possible for the risk that you're willing to take, you might be otherwise, biting your nose to spite your face, right? You might be getting out of these winning trades too soon. So that your behavior, therefore, is not congruent with what your actual stated goal is. So then what's got to happen? Those things have to find a way to converge. Either you have to change your goal and lower your expectations of yourself because you just don't have it in you to stay in winning trades. It's too scary for you. Financial abundance might not really be what you want. It might look really good from the outside, but you don't have what it takes, at least not right now, to get there. And that's a shot in the front pocket, so to speak. So that was also part of answer to my own question, how did you change your mentality? I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be the guy who was all hat and no cattle. Because I had to have that integrity with myself. I very rarely give a shit what anyone thinks about me. I let go of that in high school. So it was more about, what do I want for my life and how do I want to change from what I knew, which was like living the life of a Raymond Carver short story of very much blue-collar despair, and turn into a person who owns assets and intellectual property and, revolutionize myself. That takes a lot of mental stamina when you're living and doing things in a world that have probabilistic outcomes. It's not as sure as going to become an accountant or going to become a doctor or getting a law degree and then passing the bar. Those strategies, or those endeavors, are by no means easy, But if you follow the path, the outcome is highly predictable. Of course, if you don't do the work, you're not going to pass any of the exams. So I presume those folks are very acting intentionally. So you need to look at your subconscious and go back and trace that, because we're all following emotional models. Why do we do it? Because it feels good. It's convenient. We're used to it. It's kind of who we are in many ways. And you've probably said that about friends. Oh, so-and-so ranted about this and that. Oh, yeah, that's just how they are. Well, they do that by choice, right? Everything, we live in a paradigm of personal responsibility. So if they allow themselves to act that way and they behave that way, that's okay. It's job security for me. That person's never going to be a threat to me in the markets. You see what I'm saying? Because I also know that that person's going to be their own worst enemy. And when we meet in the marketplace, the person who has the most discipline is going to walk away with the most money. You see? And they come there on their own volition. No one's putting a gun to their head or forcing them to do anything. But that, in a nutshell, is how the markets work. It's a greater fool theory. So you have to figure out how that all works and what is your role in that mechanism, right? Because you're in charge of yourself. I am not the boss of you. And so how does that unfold? It's deep and it takes time. So it's so not about chart patterns or 1 minute fucking bars, right? It's more about what can you do? How can you stop sabotaging your own behavior? You see? Because ultimately we bring it upon ourselves. I live in that is very Buddhist way of looking at it for sure. I'm not a Buddhist, but it is a Buddhist way that you are the cause of your own suffering. And you can fix it. That's the good news, is that once you become aware of why you do what you do, you can make alterations. They don't have to be swift necessarily and make changes. Rome wasn't built in a day, but you can definitely make small changes and get used to those new feelings. That's really what I did. As you can see, there's a multi-part answer to yesterday's question because there's just too much to talk about. And I don't like going on for 30 minutes by myself here. I'm busy. And so at the end of the day, it's challenging because, again, you can do it yourself. I did. It took over 4 years to do it. So you can do it by yourself. A good coach, this is the kind of stuff that we do in the mastermind. Not so much what we do with Victor's class, but with the group and with the one-on-one. This is the kind of stuff that we uncover and help shorten the learning curve and accelerate the success. If that's what the person wants. If not, again, it's okay. For me, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I have enough things on my plate. I really prefer to be painting all day. That's why I get up so early and call in my orders and just wait for my stops to get hit. I don't want to be sitting in front of a screen all day, hoping that I can see something. So that's kind of why it's true. Intentions equal results, because your intentions come from your conscious mind, but also from your subconscious. So it's in my humble opinion anyway, it's in your best interest to understand what it is that makes you tick. Why do you do what you do? Where and from whom did you learn that behavior? And that's tricky because those people, you probably have a strong affinity for them. You probably love them on a very deep level in many ways. But that doesn't mean they were the best financial teachers for you. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, just my 2 cents. As always, thank you very much for being here. I'll see you tomorrow with Ganja. Okay, everybody, thanks for being here. Please take a minute, like and subscribe to the show. You could also leave a comment. I don't have all the answers, so it's good to get some feedback. Also, if you would like to support the show, check out the links below. You can get the free audiobook of The Inner Voice of Trading, and also information about the course that I teach with Victor Sperandio. Thanks for being here, folks. I'll see you tomorrow.